Yeah. I like the look. It's unique.
Oh, yeah.
I do myself. Really? Seriously? I want him to stroke my back.
We are missing something. Are we ready? Welcome everybody. I think we can start the Q&A for Transamazonia playing in our international competition. I'm very happy to introduce again the talents here with us today, starting from the producer, Sophie Erbs. And the actors, starting from Hama Luciano, Sabine Timoteo, Jeremy Sido, Elena Zengel, and of course the director, Pia Mare. So Pia, if I'm not wrong, I mean, this is based on a true story, we can say. So on an episode that happened in the 70s, if I'm not wrong, something that you read or a news that you got about this plane crashing with a little girl, I guess, that survived the crash. So I wanted to ask why among all the million stories in the world, this one caught your attention?
I think because that incident changed her life completely, so she could never go back. And that moment in her life that literally then defined who she would become, I just found that such a amazing thing to happen to someone. I think that was where the first thought came. I never had the idea to go to the Amazon to make a film originally. And we did originally think, oh, would it be possible to shoot it outside Cologne? I don't know, I'm joking. But no, obviously I was also interested in the Amazon. I'd never been there. I didn't know if I would like it. But having grown up in South Africa, I enjoy to go to places and discover them that maybe where one sometimes also steps out of one's comfort zone and discovers something. I find that a bridge to another perspective. And so I didn't know it would be possible, and it was very hard to do it, to make the film. But the process of making this film enriched me in ways I can't even start to describe.
And we saw it's an ambitious project. We saw many co-producers. It's really an international effort. So I would love also to talk with the producer. I mean, really the two of you. How did it go? Like, Pia came to you with the script, and how did she convince you to do this? And in general, I think the challenges to make this project happen were a lot. But yeah, if you can say something, just to give us an idea.
Now, Pia was working in the beginning with Pandora Film Production. Christophe Friedel is here, and he's been really one of the very first to be part of the project. And so they were working together, and we had already co-produced Pia's previous film, La Forêt. And when they found out the film was to be shot in the Amazon, France turned up to be probably a better opportunity for financing the film. So we teamed up between France and Germany to try to make it happen. And then, because we were shooting during Bolsonaro's time, shooting in Brazil became really difficult, which is why we needed to add more and more partners in the process in order to be able to finance the film, because we were basically shooting in a country where access would be very difficult and we would not have any financing. And the way that we managed to gather everybody together is around the story, very simply. Because it doesn't seem obvious, of course, to talk to Taiwanese people about the story taking place in the Amazon, shot by a South African director. But in the end, the story was so universal, and he's talking about concepts that could talk to all the partnering countries. And we managed to gather around the concept of faith, around the concept of the miracle, around the political aspect of the film that describes things that are happening. And of course, with the topic of the indigenous population is a topic that also is actually universal, and what's described in the film is not just an Amazonian story, unfortunately. And all of this, combined with the strengths of the story that Pia had written with Willem, allowed us to partner up. And I want to say again, thank you to all the co-producers and the partners on the film, because it has been really, really a journey to make it, and I'm very thankful that we managed to make it.
And then, of course, one of the strengths of the film is this beautiful, talented cast that you've worked with. And it's a cast composed of some professional and very well-known actors and some non-professional actors, indigenous actors. So I think these two, let's say, group of actors deserves separate comments. I would love to know, how did you choose your actors, and what stood out, and when and what made you think, okay, they are the ones? And also, and then secondly, how did you go about the indigenous actors? How did you find them, and what was the process there?
Well, if I start from the beginning, I would say Sabine was the first actress to join the film. I'd known Sabine's work many years. I'd often seen her in Berlin at premieres. I was always very drawn to her, so...
She never came to say hello, though.
Well, I had a crush, so... And then we were looking for an actress that could play Rebecca. And we looked actually for a long, long time, and we took different routes. And in the end, there was only one person who could play Rebecca, and that was Helena. And I was very, very honored that she was willing to go on this journey with me. It was quite astonishing. I met her we went for a walk with our dogs. And the only thing I was concerned about it was there was so much she would have to do. For example, learn Portuguese phonetically. That was already a huge challenge. I couldn't learn Portuguese myself, or Brazilian Portuguese. But on this walk, she kind of took me by the hand, and I remember meeting some friends who are here and having this sort of weird buzz, thinking, oh my God, she just kind of took all the fear of making this film, she kind of absorbed it. And yeah. And then Jeremy came to us. I want to say this because he's a very courageous actor and human. We didn't know Jeremy, and we had been working for months with another actor who, for health reasons, had to pull out. And that was a godsend, because in that way Jeremy arrived in Brazil 3 days roughly before we started to shoot. So he didn't have any preparation, but he just went he dived deep, I would say. And then it was amazing. It was always meant to be that way. So that was, there were many gifts coming to us. Hama came to us through Claudio Barras, who was our casting. He's a director, he's an actor, but he also does casting in Belém and beyond Belém in Brazil. And he's also a coach. If you ask him, he's amazing. And he's been doing this for many, many years. And so the work that Claudio then did over the period of 2 years, actually, going to different nations, indigenous nations, and doing castings. And so we were able to make a kind of pre-selection 2022. Hama was I fell in love with Hama in the video. He was very small still, and I didn't think he would play this character. But then when he came in 2023 to the workshop, it was just quite clear that it was him. And and then Felicitas, who is amongst us as well, she arrived to us. She's German, in fact, but lives as well in Sao Paulo. So she came to us, and I would actually like to say that Walter Solon, who's sitting there too, is not quite innocent in that. Get up, exactly. Because he was very, very much part of this whole process of casting. It wasn't only the indigenous who were non-actors. There are many non-actors in the film, but we had Claudio Barras there, and he really is an amazing coach. So with Claudio, Walter translating, we were able to communicate in ways I'd never thought were possible. And I must say it was a very new experience for me, because I've never collaborated in that kind of way. And I would do it again at the drop of a hat, because it's enriching.
I think also for you has been one of those experiences that only happens once in a lifetime. This kind of project in such a specific setting. How was for you shooting this film in this specific context, in the Amazon, and in a film that also tackle very directly the idea of somebody, an intruder, going inside this environment and trying to destroy it, and your presences are at the same time inside the forest and something that is alien to that. And I think you all perfectly convey this tension, this contrast.
I think probably more than anything, the word that comes to mind is demanding, in every possible sense of the word. That the space, the place, the story demanded everything immediately, and there was no sort of like I said, I had no preparation time, but the world in some ways forced everything on me. And I think that I keep thinking that, earlier when we were in the press conference, somebody had asked something about faith, right? And you had this conversation about faith, and I was thinking quite a bit about it afterwards. in a lot of ways, the way that I always saw Byrne is having created a little bubble, right, of purpose, having that saved him in some way, but that also that demanded him to hold a fallacy, a lie, together throughout his life and injure whoever was around, while the world around would eat away at that bubble constantly, and that there's this tension. And I sort of have this feeling that there's something about making a film in that environment which is not dissimilar. You know, that there's this little bubble of will that is very, very tiny in relationship to the expanse and massiveness of the Amazon and of other forces that are in play. And so I feel very much that what's at the core of the script, for me, what was at the core of the script, sort of this trying to build a belief within a thing that's created, while not necessarily seeing the forces that are actually shaping the world around you. I feel like it worked its way into the actual filmmaking on a daily basis, as an actor, I think as in the production and all around. I think it was an extremely demanding and complex human process, and we're like on a little boat together in the middle of a giant ocean, trying not to capsize every minute.
I don't know if Elena or Sabine or even Hama wants to add anything.
Yeah, I wanted to add something about the casting experience with Jeremy, because you were just saying about we were sailing a little boat in the middle of the jungle, and obviously that means, you know, a lot of trust in the movie and in the people around you. And I remember when we were in Brazil, we had this sort of rooftop party on a building with a pool, and we were having a good time. And then I saw Pia, and she was really sad, and I didn't really know what was going on. And then to later find out that we lost the actor for Byrne. And like a few days later, Sophie and all the producers made it happen, and we have a new actor. And I remember we went for dinner, and I thought, like, how is this gonna work? Because, you know, we play father and daughter, and then we're not, and then we're actually relatives but not. And I thought, how is this gonna work? Because I don't know this guy, and we have to have a bond, like, on screen. And I remember he walked in, and he had this amazing energy, and I think we spoke for, like, what, 3 hours or something? Like, we didn't eat, we just spoke about life, and I just thought, okay, this is the guy. Like, if someone will play my father in the movie, it's gonna be you. Yeah.
Of course, this is also space for you, so whoever wants to ask a question, just raise your hand and I'll be happy to give you a mic. We have a question already there.
Oui, je voulais savoir quel était votre message autour de ce pouvoir qu'a cette Rebecca pour soigner les gens, avoir ce pouvoir de... est-ce que c'est quoi votre message à travers ça?
I don't know that I will be able to answer your question in a satisfactory way. I don't know that I had a message with her healing. For me, she was a projection for other people. And so I was never myself entirely sure if there was something like a miracle. I wouldn't assume to know that myself. But then I said today the film is a miracle that it happened. But I don't think for me it was about a character having a message with her healing. It's just part of who she is, and she needed to be this projection for other people of hope, maybe.
Any other question? Please. Just wait a second for the mic.
Nella natura del pargo, della natura dove lui vive, gironzola, la scenografia, come è stata creata, come...
On the art direction, well, that's a very good question, because I have to say that the production designer is Petra Barchi. She is from Ticino. But I'm not done. I'm not done. I have made every film with Petra. I could not imagine to make a film without Petra, because without her, she's a big part of creating a vision. And she's very important. I found her invaluable as a force working on a film, because she does not cease to continue to imagine, and at the same time she's very critical, and so the whole we had spent 2 years. 1 year we spent a couple of months in French Guiana scouting. We scouted the whole of French Guiana. Literally, I don't think we left one road unscouted, because it's not that big where you can go. And then there were certain things we couldn't find, but we took inspiration, and Petra had created like a whole idea. And then we went to Brazil, to Belém, and then we landed up in Tucuruí. And so it was this consistent dialogue of trying to understand what the film could be, what the reality was we found, and at the same time to bring a vision we had kind of collectively through. I mean, I could not say that this would be like this without Petra. So the art direction was very essential for me in my process. Thank you for that question.
And since we are talking about Swiss presences in the film, of course, Sabine is the other big one. I wanted to ask something about your role. How did you approach it? Because, of course, it's a father and daughter relationship, and at some point, these characters show up and somehow infiltrates in the relationship and become parts of this very complex network of tension and interchanges. How did you approach your role? What was interesting for you in this role, and why you wanted to play it?
Well, the script. The first thing I got was the script. And I read the script, and I could not say no. I didn't want to say no. I absolutely wanted to play a little part, this part in it, because I felt it was very well written, and well written because it opened up spaces. It didn't give solutions. It like opened up questionings on so many different levels, and in such an intelligent way, because it started in the souls of the people, of Rebecca, of this father, of the indigenous people, of these people that cut the woods and stuff. It started there, and it opened up into the bigger abusive relationship we have with nature and with resources, and it combines, it actually makes a link between how human beings behave with each other, using and abusing each other, basically, not all, but basically, and we treat what's around us just the same way, okay? And this is very rare that you get like a structure, because a script is a structure that allows spaces to open up.
And this it happened. We had the structure, and without this structure, we would have been lost, completely overwhelmed by this forest, by the wilderness, by the overwhelming of all our senses, okay? But thanks to this script, we had like a structure. We knew we could go along, and it would like hold us even in the most difficult situations. So yeah, basically it was the script, first of all. And then it was Pia. Yeah, I think I had a crush on you too, darling, without even knowing you. No, but you know, in Berlin times, I knew about her working, about this woman that wrote her own stories and would like really do them, like become reality. There were not so many at the time when I was 19, you know, and she was one of them. Anyway, and then, but we never talked, as she said. And then, obviously, when what can I say? And I like something more. Your question was, why did I want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Well, the essentiality of the project, actually, basically. Yeah.
Is there any question? Otherwise, I really wanted to ask something to Hama about, well, his role in the film. How was this experience for him? And in general, it's something that we already discussed a bit today during the press conference. It was a very interesting conversation about the present, the representation of indigenous population on screen. And I think the work that Pia did with this film is such an important and urgent, timely kind of work. So if you can tell us something about your experience playing this role in this film.
A minha experiência no filme, como eu tinha falado de manhã, foi uma experiência única. Silas é um menino muito corajoso, que não tem medo de nada, não teme a nada. E no começo eu fiquei tímido, mas depois foi se soltando. E foi um pouco difícil interpretar o Silas, mas foi bom. Conheci pessoas novas, uma experiência que não tem como esquecer. E é muito importante para a gente indígena tá passando nas telas, né? E a Pia ter feito um filme desse, que é a realidade que a gente tem, que a gente passa no Amazonas, desmatamento. E foi bom ela mostrar para o mundo, né? Ela mostrar para o mundo. Então é muito importante para a gente, indígenas, tá sendo representado por mim, Satere Maué, da etnia Satere Maué, e várias outras etnias que existem no Amazonas.
So to play Silas was a unique experience, and Silas is fearless, and I learned a lot from him by being that way, and it was really challenging to play it because I'm very shy, but in the end I got it and I could do it, and I met new people, and this opened up so many things for me. And in the end, it's very important that we are represented, because what happens nowadays in the Amazon has to come to the world. So it's very good that Pia decided to show these things, not only we as indigenous, but also what's happening in the Amazon, the deforestation that affects all of us. So it's very important that I represent here Satere Maué, my nation, and also many others that are in the Amazon.
And this film is surprising in many ways. Today I was reading some notes that you wrote, like your director's note, and at some point you mentioned your cinematic references, some other films that you had in mind. and they were, well, totally surprising to me, but they make sense. Can you tell us more?
I'm a big fan of Brian De Palma. Sorry.
Yeah, but
I don't have a. I have a bit of a. I was interested in trauma, and so obviously Hitchcock, I think, has certain films that deal with trauma, female trauma. So obviously, Hitchcock was a reference for me, and Brian De Palma too. But there were many films. Maybe
you mentioned Carrie, if I'm not.
Yes, but you know, if had I had.
No, don't be shy.
I know, but I could have.
I'm
I could have wanted to go more into horror. I could have, if I'm really honest. Yeah, because I do enjoy it a lot, and I felt that this character, which was suppressing so much in the memory, it is a horror actually, essentially. And for me, Carrie left a huge imprint as a young person. I have to say it was one of those films that just... Maybe it was the first time I saw female rage really find a form, but it just blew me away. And so, yeah, that's where these references come from. And I could have gone more horror. I could have. I'm glad I didn't. I don't think that it would have been the same film, but I was possibly reined in moments.
Maybe for the next film.
Next one,
You're
yes.
expecting a horror next
yes,
time.
I would love.
We have another question there. Just waiting for the mic.
Are you already projecting a new movie?
You ask such good questions. Yes, we're working on another. Willem and I were writing on another project, and it's very healthy to do that as well, because it's very emotional to make a film for everybody that worked on the film, and for those who go the whole way, it becomes very emotional. And I think one way to maybe be able to let go just a little bit and relax a little bit is to start working on something else. So yeah, to work on other things is it's kind of essential, and it's keeps one's sanity, I think.
I think we have time for one last question, if any.
Well, thanks. It's actually not a question. Mainly, it's I want to say my congratulations for this really great movie that you all brought to us. It's a very strong work, and I think Sabine said it in a very interesting way. It's the combination that these two elements come together. That there is, of course, the political side of the story, but the personal story, which has a strong connection in the exploitation part. But that brings a question in: where did you start to create the story around the character to become this father's-daughter's relationship? As the start was maybe another motive, and where did you bring it together with the situation in the Amazon? Could you maybe?
I could try.
Tell us a little bit. But thanks a lot for the movie anyway. So.
Thank you. So it was already clear, I think, before I went on the research trip, that it would be a father-daughter story, and that had more to do with this idea of imprint, what creates this imprint that then forms one. And I suppose from my perspective, an interesting way to explore that was through a father-daughter dynamic. Then the research trip, the first one to the Amazon, brought all the other elements in, and the tricky part was more, and that was where Willem, with whom I collaborated writing, lost or gained gray hair because it was very difficult to, I'm joking, Willem, to bring all these narrative strands into one narrative and connect them to the central character. And so I think by the time we shot, we probably had 12 drafts or something that we wrote. It was really a long process, and then we had producers who didn't let go either. They kept pushing us to continue because it was a very different process. This time we gave it out to be read many times because it was very tricky. As it had this complexity of space, what took a very long time was to understand I'd been to the Trans-Amazonica and I had a very clear image and memory of what I'd experienced there, but it was very tricky to try to bring that into the narrative for some reason. Now I don't know why anymore, but at the beginning it was something that was quite overwhelming, as was in many ways the fact that, of course, neither of us were from Brazil, and even if our perspective was not that of the indigenous nation or the Brazilian characters, it was a consistent negotiation. So Willem likes to reference ironing, and I think we ironed and ironed and ironed. And actually, I would like to, at this point, add that I was very privileged to work with two editors in Taiwan, Mathieu Laclau and Yanshan Tsai, and they continued that ironing. Because obviously when you shoot, and under the circumstances that we did our best to shoot, which were actually great circumstances, but very difficult ones, we needed to do some ironing after. So it was a process of, trying to bring things together.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid our time is over, but I wish to thank you warmly again, Pia, Sophie, and the wonderful cast.